Hi everyone, I'm Phil Young. I chair the Football Supporters Society of Bury, and Neil's asked me to um, provide a quick update basically to everybody on how the structure of the organisation work, how it all hangs together and interrelates to one another. I had a few questions about it. We've got new members joining all the time, so it's always a good idea to do a quick update. We've sent out loads of information on this previously, but I'm conscious that sometimes a picture is better than words. So I put together this brief slide on it, which hopefully makes it self-explanatory. Happy to answer questions on it. If needs be, you can contact me on chair@fssb.co.uk if there's any outstanding questions on it. So first of all, the society itself is a community benefit society. That's the one at the top of the page there. That means it's something, it's kind of somewhere in between a charity and a mutual society. It gets some tax breaks, so it's good to get money and roll-up capital in there as well. It doesn't pay any corporation tax. It's not VAT registered at all. So all it does from a trading point of view is collect membership fees and occasionally donations in there, and that's literally it. We're not allowed to do additional benefits for people. We've looked at this in the past. Would love to give discounts on season tickets or bits and pieces like that as part of the actual membership, but unfortunately it would contravene the tax breaks that we get. So for those reasons, we don't do it. We just take membership fees and occasionally donations in there, and that's about it basically. So all of the members are sat in that society. It's actually an amalgamation. We voted that through 12 months or so ago now, between two different other societies, the Shakers Community Society and Bury Football Club Supporters Society Limited. Those two societies are actually technically owned. The assets are owned by the new society, which is the Football Sports Society of Bury Limited, which means that anybody that was a member of those two beforehand, provided that they're still paying their membership fees into it, are also now members of the Football Sports Society of Bury Limited. We're going through a process still, which is quite a long, painful one, of transferring people across and getting them to sort of stop paying into the old society and to sign up to the new society. The new society, you can view everything at www.fssb.co.uk and sign up there as well. If you've had emails from us notifying you about how to do that, then that's great. You can crack on with moving across. If you haven't had an email through yet, don't worry about it. We'll get to you in due course. We're just phasing all of that through as we migrate people across and ironing out a few bugs and a few problems along the way with it all. But we're making steady progress on that. So the Football Supporters Society of Bury, I'll just call it the society from now on, has got an ownership in two different things. First of all, Bury Football Club 2019 Limited, which is a company limited by shares. You can see that on Companies House, and it is effectively Bury Football Club. We set it up as a separate company from the Community Benefit Society for a number of different reasons. From a tax point of view, it works quite well. Equally, if we were ever to get into the EFL, which is a long way off right now, but the EFL don't actually recognise community benefit societies. You have to be a limited company to be able to get entry into those leagues. So we've set it up in that way right now. The society owns 100% of the shares of Bury Football Club 2019 Limited, and it appoints all of the board members and all the various people that work in Bury Football Club. So it's got 3 full-time employees in it at the moment, Neil, Stuart and Ben, and it's often referred to as the football club board. In reality, it's a combination of people who operationally run that football club and make sure that it works. They're not all statutory directors. Some of them have sort of FA league required positions, like chairman, like secretary and things like that, but they meet together as a group, as a sort of executive committee, if you like, and run the football club on behalf of the society. So we delegate some of the responsibilities of those guys, and the society board members, who are all elected, have some oversight over what they can do and can poke our nose into it, ask questions, intervene if we feel like it needs to be done. But from a society point of view, we're not hands-on involved in the day-to-day running of the football club. The other part to it is called what's called the Bury Football Club Company Limited, which is a company limited by guarantee. Company limited by guarantee they're fairly unusual. You know, certainly I've not come across a company limited by guarantee too much. But it's the business that owns the Gig Lane Stadium. It's the organisation that owns the Gig Lane Stadium. It's registered at Companies House as well, so you can have a look at it on there. The society is a joint owner with Bury FC Benefactors Limited. Bury FC Benefactors Limited is a company limited by shares. It's a bunch of private individuals who put the funding in that meant that we were able to use that to match fund against government money to buy the stadium back in the first place. The society itself, that part of the grant funding terms requires the society to be in control, if you like, to have the majority say in the running of and management of the asset. And as a result, you know, unless somebody wanted to pay off the government's £1 million that they've put in, the organisation itself will remain run and controlled by the society. The society basically has got 4 board members and the majority voting rights as a consequence. Bury FC Benefactors has got 3 board members and 3 votes for decisions that need to be taken on there as well. So that's how the majority ownership works. There's no real financial rights involved in it. There's not, and I know people have used the phrase 51.49% in the past. There's not actually any shares in there. There's just 2 members. The 2 members of that company limited by guarantee of the society and Bury FC Benefactors Limited. So there's they are equal from that point of view. It's just the voting rights that are different as far as that's concerned in it. That it's actually in some respects, I think, a good thing that the stadium was actually held in a different company. It meant if the football club ever went bust, it would mean that you don't necessarily lose the stadium at the same time, and vice versa. The one complication to it that's cropped up of late is that the football club itself doesn't directly own the stadium. The society actually has a controlling interest in both of these two, but the football club itself, which, as far as the FA and the leagues are concerned and people like that, or any funders that are funding into the football club itself, like the Football Foundation, their only interest really is in the football club and whether it owns the football stadium. So the issue that we're trying to address at the moment is, how do we prove that the football club has got an absolute right to play at that football stadium in perpetuity? It seems like a daft question because of the society's ownership of the 2 things in there. There's some complicated legalities involved in there as well. But I don't think there's any issues around the fact that people want the football club Bury Football Club to be playing at Gig Lane. It's just a question of how we actually prove and demonstrate that that's the case, and that it's not possible for anybody else to change that or to alter it. For example, somebody coming in and buying a majority stake in any of these organisations where it's a company limited by shares in particular, where that's possible. We just need to prove that that's not possible. It's not possible without approval of the society's members. So hopefully that provides a bit of an overview as to how all of that works. The society decides who it wants to represent itself on both Bury Football Club and Bury Football Club Company Limited as directors, as officers, whether it's chairperson or secretaries or whatever those positions are. It has got the ability to have its say in who it wants to be on those particular boards or committees or whatever it is. And we delegate a degree of responsibility to those people to get on with doing the job. So Neil, for example, Neil Sears, he's tasked with running the operations of the football club and to some extent now the stadium itself, making sure it's profitable, dealing with employees, the people that work there. They both report into him ultimately, and organising all of the resources that are required to run both the football club and the stadium itself, which is complicated. It's hard work. We're at the real beginning of this particular journey at the moment. It's been a tough season so far because we're playing with crowds of 3,500 in a league where that's unusual. But the revenues have been fine. We've managed to make it work so far. And I think by putting the 3G pitch into the summer, things will really start to take off over that period of time. We'll be able to use the stadium every day of the week. We'll have lots of footfall in there, lots of people coming in that maybe wouldn't normally be using the stadium as well. We've got loads of ideas as what we can do to grow and to develop it. It's just a question of trying to finish off these last few bits and pieces to get the 3G pitch in and to get things up and running. So there'll be a quiet spell over the course of the summer whilst all that work goes on. And then I think things will really start to take off as the new season comes in. The way in which the supporter society actually works as well is we now only have adult members going in there. There's some plans to introduce a different scheme for junior members at some point in time. The adult members have to be over 16 to be able to vote. So if you're under 16, please don't sign up to the scheme, because we've had issues with that in the past and had to exclude people's voting rights. We've run, totting them up, I think 7 votes in the past 12 months or so. So we do actively send votes out to people. There's a real wide range of things that we ask people to vote on, from the original merger of the society to putting the 3G pitch in, things which are a little bit more for fun, like picking the away kit for next season, as well as voting for who you want on the board itself. So it's really important that we have as many people as possible that are signed up to that scheme so that you can vote. The more people that there are to vote, it's good from a financial point of view, but also that there is safety in numbers. That the more people that are actively engaged and involved in voting and helping make those and shape those decisions, the more accurate the results are going to be. On top of those 7 votes, we've sent out lots of surveys, lots of polls and things like that as well. I'm a big believer in data-driven decisions. So we can all sit in rooms and chat and have ideas thrown around, and in a lot of cases the loudest voice gets heard the most. We send out a lot of things where we can actually do something that the results that come back in are actionable, and we do things with it. And I'm pleased to see that most of the things that we're doing and the decisions that we're making have been validated by members so far. We've had well over 90% of approval rate for most of the things that we'll put forward so far, which gives me a degree of confidence that we're heading in the right direction with everything on it as well. So as I say, if there's any other questions that you've got on it, send them over to chair@fssb.co.uk. Hopefully the members that are watching found the financial update that we sent out earlier this week useful as well. They do take an awful lot of time to put together some of this information. It is quite detailed. I know sometimes it's more complicated and more detailed than some people want to get involved in, but I'd rather they were accurate and they were right, rather than just lots of volume. We're not huge fans of interacting massively all the time on social media, because that tends to breed the wrong kind of information. There's a huge amount of misinformation out there, so we're trying to stick to some fairly set piece ways of communicating things out. We've done, I think, last year we did, between May and the end of the year, we did 5 or 6 different member general meetings. So there are structured ways of doing these sorts of things as well. And we're trying to support Neil in the way in which he's doing his regular one-to-one his updates and his Q&A sessions for people to get involved in as well. It's difficult to deal with huge volumes of questions and emails and things like that. We do make mistakes, we'll miss things from time to time, but hopefully the amount of information that we're putting out there, certainly the feedback that I've had from other people involved in football and the football clubs, is it's far greater and it's far more engaging, and we're getting better results as a result of that, in terms of number of votes and revenue coming through than I think any of the other football clubs, with the exception of a few of the Scottish clubs. The likes of Hearts have really mastered this just because of their sheer scale. So hopefully that all makes sense, and look forward to speaking to you again at some point in the near future.
first question that I want to ask you is, how are these videos put together? Who vets the questions? Who decides on the way that they are answered? And a little bit about how things are put together at the club.
Yeah, no problem. So basically, we set up these fans questions to make sure as a club we're communicating with the fans effectively and being open and transparent. And part of that, it's really important to me, is to make sure that all questions are coming. We attempt to answer those questions. There is no vetting process. I get to see every question that comes in. What I do then do is bunch them up into categories just to make sure I'm not going to answer the questions verbatim. You know, we might have had 50 questions in. We'll put them into categories, segmentation, and then, although I won't give an exact answer to every single question, I will ensure that I've covered every single answer within that segment of topics that we talk about.
Okay, Neil, another question that's come in. The Society Secretary represents the members' interests on the Society Board. Why is Phil Young not meeting with the Society members and answering questions? Okay,
so pretty simple answer to this. Phil attends the annual AGM, which is the annual general meeting, and this is held in December, and other scheduled society meetings in his position as chair of the Football Society Supporters of Bury.
Okay, so who appoints the football board, and why have there been no elections for this board?
Okay, so what's known as the football board, the people on the football board are not actually directors, so they're essentially an operational team that was appointed by the elected representatives of the FSSB. They have no voting rights whatsoever. The role of these people on this board is to run the day-to-day operations of the football club, and there are 3 statutory directors of the football club as stated at Companies House. These members are all elected representations of the FSSB.
Another question that's come in, do you agree that in a fan-owned club there is a difference between members of the society and fans in general?
Yes, so it is the members which own the club through the membership of the society, and that's what we've talked about before with that £60 payment. The payment of their annual subscriptions essentially provides them with a share in the club, which enables them to provide input into key matters of the society.
Okay. Why have the conditions later been implemented by the Society Board to prevent this from happening?
Okay, so the conditions for any stake of the TBF CCL Limited in the football club was dependent on a financial contribution from the benefactors. The intended financial commitment was not made, with no funds forthcoming.
A large number of members and benefactors voted for a 51-49 merger with the football club being signed over to come under Bury Football Club Company Limited. Why has this not happened, and as there were not any conditions at the time of the election to prevent this from happening? It's quite wordy, there's not a lot of punctuation, but I'm trying my best here. So.
Yeah, no problem. So basically a vote took place on one major issue across Bury Football Club Supporters Society and the Shakers community, which was for the merging of societies. The Shakers community members also voted on 2 additional items, which was the change of the name to Bury Football Club and the vote to move the ground to Gig Lane. These were the only decisions that were made as part of the vote.
Okay, right. So there's been statements on the club website by the board indicating that a lease was a condition to release funding from the Department of Levelling Up and Bury Council for the 3G pitch. Has a lease been granted, or was it never required for the funding?
Okay, so a long-term commitment was required by Bury Council to safeguard the stadium for community use. This long-term commitment is still required.
So we still require a long-term commitment.
Yep.
From. Okay. In your recent interview, Neil, you have talked about attracting a large crowd of over 6,000. If we go up, this may be achievable, but only if there's transparency from the top. I don't know a single Bury fan who has yet to meet Phil Young, and I know a lot of fans. That's not me, that's the person who sent the question in. I do know there has been lots of opportunities where Phil Young has been invited to join meetings, Zoom and Q&As, and yet there's always been an excuse. He manages time to air his views on the radio in a heartbeat, yet refuses to engage with the fan base. For 6,000 to be achieved before you consider any other marketing strategy, Phil Young needs to engage and be actively involved. He's in a privileged position and he needs to respect that. So can I just get your comment on that, please? It's quite wordy, and just to make people at home aware, there will be a few cuts in this video, but basically Phil Young's in a privileged position. He's the chair of the CBS board, and in order to attract quite a lot of fans, you said over 6,000, Phil needs to come out and be more open with the fans. Okay,
so thanks Nick, thanks for trying to put that question to me. And I'm glad you have read it out in its entirety, just to show that we're not editing any questions really. So there are formal processes for engagement of board members with supporters, as with any business out there, and Phil attends these whilst also interacting informally with members and supporters.
Okay. With you being pretty much the only person in dialogue with him, can you assure us fans that action will take place to rectify what they feel is Phil's absence?
Yep. So I know as a fact I'm not the only individual interacting with Phil. He engages with other board representatives, football board members, volunteers and supporters on a regular basis. In fact, I've been at matches myself where I've witnessed that myself.
Okay. And is there any kind of lead up to some sort of fans forum or anything like that? We spoke about it a little bit in the last video. Is there anything you could tell us about that?
So there's obviously going to be some kind of fans forum over the summer where key representation from each of the key stakeholders will be there in terms of football operations, and we can hopefully then talk to the fans, on a more audience base live.